Subsidizing the entertainment, like you mentioned earlier, that I just find that incredible. Whether you're talking about the Como pool or whatever you're talking, the zoo, whatever you're talking about. But there are also programs out there where the city of St. Paul offers low interest or no interest loans to businesses, and then the businesses go belly up, and the people, the good people of the city of St. Paul, are left holding the tab.
Absolutely.
And it's so refreshing to hear somebody actually talk about the budget and actually know where the dollars is being spent. You just don't hear that.
For sure. Well, I live in the Highland Park area, and the constituency that I would be reaching is Ward 3, which is McAllister, Groveland, Highland Park area. We're kind of like on the lower west side of St. Paul, and we have the Ford plant. And a little known fact about the Ford plant is that in 2009, governor at the time, city council, and current mayor decided to offer them a nice tax break package to try to keep it open a little bit. And there was about 750 jobs at that plant alone at the time. And I understand why they attempted to keep it, but this seems, when I give you the number, you're going to kind of cough and be like, whoa. They offered them $90 million in tax breaks.
$90 million?
$90 million. Well, and if you put it in perspective, we have a $500 to $600 million a year budget. And for police protection alone in St. Paul, it costs just over $100 million. So they basically were, over a couple years, offering tax breaks to a big corporation. Ford, obviously they've had some troubles in the past couple years, but not hurting in comparison to the average citizen in St. Paul. They offered them 1 year for of funding for the entire St. Paul PD. They offered them that up on a plate. They rejected it. They rejected it because it simply didn't make any business sense. Some other projects that they're taking on for themselves are like we have the downtown lofts. They put in $16 million to build these lofts with the intention that the city is going to then rent them out and make some money and try to make it back up. Well, the problem, you were talking about giving no or low interest loans to businesses. At least those are open semi to market forces. These, on the other hand, aren't. These are going to be, it's not even low income housing. There's not even some of the more legitimate purposes that they try to, obfuscate them through with, low income housing, that sort of thing. It's simply to make money. It's to generate revenue for the city. $16 million off of our plate. It won't pay any property taxes, so there's additional money gone off the tax roll that isn't going to be paid.
Which means other homeowners have to pay more because somebody's not paying anything.
Absolutely, and if they don't make any money, the taxpayer is going to be left holding the bag, and I find that absolutely egregious. There's tons of little projects all around the city that and then they simply just don't make choices that are correct sometimes. That you just kind of look at them, you're like, really, we're going to build a bridge that's going to cost us $1.2 billion, or I'm sorry, $1.2 million instead of $400,000, and all this sort of beautification stuff. And it's awesome. Our community looks great. My slogan is keep Ward 3 the place to be. I think it is. I think we have a lot of great spaces. I originally lived in outstate Minnesota for the last 18 or 20 years, and I love the green spaces that we have in the city. And I think that we can maintain them and keep them looking green and keep them well maintained and keep them viable into the future without using government solutions. I think that we can remarketize them. We can absolutely, bring nonprofits in, do some donations, fundraising and things like that, and keep them up without keeping them on the government rolls.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you have your hands full in the city of St. Paul. A lot of the economic development, or I guess you could non-economic development.
Yeah,
Let's talk light rail transit. We have to talk light rail transit. Have you driven down University lately?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my girlfriend used to go to school at the University of Minnesota, so I'm familiar with University. I also do a lot of my shopping at the Target in the Midway. I like the Walmart, Rainbow's there, McDonald's, Little Caesars, all those great businesses right along University. And those are big box businesses. You also have the little ones there that are going to absolutely be the ones that are harmed by this light rail transit.
Do you know how many empty storefronts are on University Avenue right now?
Oh, not offhand. 200?
200.
My goodness.
We just counted them. 200 empty storefronts. And let's say this 11-mile, I think it's an 11-mile central corridor connecting downtown Minneapolis to downtown St. Paul with a pretty shiny train is going to destroy so many of those good small businesses along that route.
Absolutely. And when you got to think, when you say small business, people don't really understand what that is. That is an individual or a family or a small group of individuals putting their hard-earned time and money and effort into something that now, because of not lack of effort, not lack of trying, is going to fail. They put their livelihoods at stake. Sometimes small businesses have employees between 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 employees that are going to be out of business or going to have their hours reduced to deal with it. So light rail is
For
problematic.
3 more years.
3 more years. Well, when you figure, if you do business along that, that's where your primary traffic is going to come from, is right along University. They're going to be getting rid of parking, which is a serious concern. They're not going to be putting it back in. They've talked about they're going to put one parking lot at a certain stop and another one here, and they're not really taking into account, and they ended up getting sued. I think it was by the Rondo Association, because they hadn't really taken into consideration all the business effects that's going to happen, all the negative impact to revenue, as well as when you talk to community members. I don't live in that area, but I do know individuals that do live there, and it's absolutely something that does affect the Highland and the area Ward 3 as well, because this is money we're going to be shoveling out to pay these fares, these subsidized fares,
and the operating costs.
Absolutely.
The operating costs are ongoing, and everybody in the city, everybody in Ramsey County is going to have to pick up that tab.
For sure. Well, and the other thing too is that they haven't, when you talk about operating costs and they're looking into it and they are estimating, something that they haven't taken into account is snow plowing. Well, we've been a state since, since 1858, and I think probably every year we've had snow, so it would make sense to at least budget some money into building, cost of going over these rails. And I think that the people in the Highland Park area kind of understand it. We're right next to the Hiawatha line. I live probably about 2 miles away from it, and I use it to go to Twins games like most folks do. And that one, it's nice, but the ridership isn't who they claim it's going to be. Unlike on the University Avenue, they're severely curtailing. I think it's the 16A, which is a bus route, and that's used by low-income minority populations that we absolutely should be reaching out to. And you think there's going to be about a mile or a little bit less than that between way stations. People who go get their groceries on the bus, instead of every 2 blocks, it's going to be a mile. Can you imagine walking in the snow on the unplowed roads at this point? That's what it is, on unplowed roads, and walking home with your groceries. It's simply, I can't even see how they're coming up with this conundrum, how they think it's going to be effective, and how they think it's going to cut down on traffic. In 3 years, people are going to be displaced, businesses are going to be displaced. I think we're up to 12 or 15 businesses that have already moved. They've only just recently, within the last month or so, started opening up ground. And the presuppositions, the assumptions that they make based on this are they're outrageous. Because as they're digging up these and they're starting with this construction, guess what they find under there?
I know.
You do. It's the old trolley routes.
Yes!
This, effectively, when you're making the light rail system, this is a 100-year investment. It's going to last 100 years. And we don't know. I think I was arguing with somebody the other day. I said, if I knew what I knew today, 10 years ago, what sort of things would I do? And I said, okay, well, I'd send 3 things. I'd say, invest in Facebook. You'd invest all your money in Facebook. If we knew what we knew 10 years ago, back then, 9/11 could have been prevented in simple things. And they are they're presupposing that they know what the economy is going to look like, what the city is going to look like, what the businesses are going to be like in 100 years from now. And they simply can't make that assumption. They can, you can create these cute little complex computer models, but it doesn't really account for the human factor. Humans are adaptive creatures, and we're going to go about doing business in the way that we want to do business. And, the businesses that are in downtown St. Paul and downtown Minneapolis may not be there in 10 years, 20 years. They could belly up in 5 years. It's absolutely, they're basically guessing. They're guessing. They're taking our money. They're taking a ton of money. We've spent over $160 million already in litigation and payoffs and buyoffs and things like that. And I can't remember what the price tag it is, but it's well over $1 billion for this. And they're basically putting that, and they're spinning the roulette, and they're hoping that it lands on red, and they're hoping that the economy gets better along that line. Well, like I said, detracting from the local economy, the local storefronts. So it's absolutely egregious that they're doing this.
It just breaks my heart when I watch interviews with the small business owners along University Avenue, and it's like everybody from the Met Council to the St. Paul City Council to the state officers in Minnesota. It's like they don't realize the blood, sweat, and tears that these small business owners have invested into their businesses. And then I looked at the pretty diagrams that they have of the train going down the middle of University Avenue. And I asked one of the business owners, well, do they at least on the buildings, do they at least have the name of your business on there so that you can get a little bit of advertising when people are looking at it? And they said no, that the buildings are just blank. It's almost like they don't care if the businesses make it or not.
And they're going to do one of 2 things. Is basically they're going to let it happen. They're going to let the force of the market kind of crush these individuals because well, and I guess it's state force, it's not even market forces. They're going to cut off the transportation lines to these businesses and let them go belly up, or they're going to start dishing out government cash to them. That's what they're going to do. They're going to dish out city cash to subsidize
Millions of dollars.
Absolutely, just more money that they can add to it and say, oh, well, this is an ancillary cost. We have to do this. But again, they haven't even taken into account the snow plowing.